So I've shared with many of you my journey with addiction, and I've tried to provide some helpful tips and things for people that are either facing addiction that they can focus on, and or also people that are dealing with a loved one who has an addiction. But let me tell you where it started with me. When I was 14 or 15 years old, I was told that I could go and stay the night at my best friend's house. And I'll never forget the night the rest of my life. We get there and we're just hanging out, and my best friend's brother and his best friend, his brother's best friend, were there, and they were going to go to another friend's house that night. Well, they wanted us to join them, and so me, being somewhat naive, said, okay, let's do it. So we go, we get in his brother's best friend's truck, and we head down to the other friend's house. And then we go down into the basement, and come to find out, that's where it all started for me. Everybody was down there smoking marijuana, they were drinking, and I had not really been in that type of environment before. So I was the oddball out. And let me be very clear with you. With the way the mind of a drug addict works is when you get so far down the path and somebody comes into the room who has not done drugs, almost every single person who is in there doing drugs, they have one thing on their mind: get the person high who has never been high before and laugh at them. That's exactly what happened to me. I had never done drugs before. I was down in this basement. They had a pool table and all this other stuff. There's drinking, there's smoking going on. And when they found out that David Lewis had not done drugs before, their whole goal was to get me to do it. And I've been somewhat of an appeasing type person in my life. That's one of the struggles that I deal with with my personality. And you know what? I bought in hook, line, and sinker. And I smoked pot for the first time. It completely floored me. I was completely comatose. I mean, I'm all over the place, can barely keep my balance. I mean, everybody's laughing at me. And that's where it started. But that's really not the point of my message today, because anybody that has done drugs has their first time. They know what they did. They know how it began. But I'll tell you this is my warning and my instruction to you parents out there. Number one, know who your kids' friends are. That's where a lot of times it starts. And you know what? Don't always assume that it's somebody else. It may not be, oh, my child got caught up in the wrong crowd. No. Maybe somebody else's child got caught up in your child's crowd. Okay. So don't be naive as far as that's concerned. But there is a starting point. And so let me tell you this. Not only, number one, do you need to know who your kids are hanging out with, who their friends are. Number two, know who their parents are. Get to know, what are their parents okay with. What I found out that night, the first night I did drugs, was that the house we were hanging out with, the parents were okay with kids doing drugs. Okay? My parents didn't know that. I was over, according to, in their mind, I was over at my best friend's house. Okay? But the parents of the people that we went to, they were okay with drugs. So you got to know who your kids' friends are. You have to know who their parents are. And number three, what you may not know or may not even think about is you need to know what influence. You need to know who your child's friends, brother or sister, older brother or sister are. Okay? Because that had a direct effect on me. My best friend and I found ourselves frequently hanging out with his older brother and his older brother's friends, and they were all involved in that stuff, and my friend and I just got right in it. And then it progressed into us having our own group of friends, but it started with the older brother and the older friends. That's where it started. So number one, know who your child's friends are. Number two, know who their parents are and what they allow and what their convictions are, what their values are. And number three, know the friends, your child's friends, older brothers and sisters, and try to figure out whatever you got to do, what type of influence they may be on your child's friend, and then eventually, if they're hanging out, they'll have an influence on your child. So those are the three things today. That's where it started for me. And so that is my encouragement to you. I don't care if you come across as a stickler. I don't care if you come across as too strict. This is so essential that you know who's going to be influencing your child and going and getting in their car, and who knows what they're doing for an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours for a day or overnight. You need to know who is going to be influencing your child, at least until they're 18. And then at that point, you hope you've raised a child that they're going to choose wisely who they let into their lives. So that's my encouragement. That's my instruction. That's my helpful tips today regarding your children and trying to avoid them being around addicts. Okay? Blessings, y'all.